Hello, my lovely friends. My name is Ava, and here are all of the books that I ended up reading in February. I read 17 books in February. I finished my 17th one tonight. So let's get into these. I go in chronological order. So first book that I read in the month is the first book we're going to be talking about. We're going to be starting with a very popular one. I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I'm going to be honest and say I don't know when I would have read this book if it wasn't for a book club that I'm a part of. There's a romance book club at a bookstore that I go to in Austin, and their pick for this month was Wild Love. And I think one of the girls who like runs the book club, she was wanting cowboys, and she didn't even read what the summary was. She thought cowboys, and this wasn't cowboys, so she's like, dang, I thought it was gonna be cowboys. Our hero is a billionaire, I want to say. I think, honestly, I forgot. It's this romance with a girl. I think is it Second Chance, or is it like, I can't remember, honestly. Let me see. No, it's Brother's Best Friend. I was like, there's some trope in here. Yeah, Brother's Best Friend, and it's a workplace romance. Essentially the hero donated some sperm, I think, when he was in college or something. That sperm is now a human being, and her family's going through some hard times, and she winds up on his doorstep saying like, hey, can I stay with you? I have nowhere to stay right now. This kind of like father-daughter bond kind of forms between them. And the heroine starts working for him at his like, is it a record studio if I remember correctly? It's Brother's Best Friend. It's kind of like forbidden, I guess. They're trying to sneak around her brother. I honestly wanted to finish the Chestnut Spring series before I read any other Elsie Silver book, but they picked this book, and I'm trying to put myself out there to make friends in real life. So I was like, I don't care. Let's do this. The discussion for this book was pretty funny. Like, it was really funny. It's the first romance book club that I've been to, by the way, where there were men. There was like 2 men in there, and I was like, hell yeah. Yes, I love to see that, and they had a lot of stuff to say about this book, and so did all the other women. But a big consensus was the book was meh for people. Some of the things in here just weren't my favorite thing. I don't know if I would recommend this book. Just some things that weren't my favorite, and I honestly already forgot about a lot of them. So just not my cup of tea. I know that other people love this book though. I finally picked up a book off of my physical TBR, y'all. I picked up Stray by Daisy Jane. This is a femme-dom romance. I actually met Daisy Jane late last year, as you can see. I actually bought 2 other books from her, and then I found out later, after I'd already gone to her table, that this book had disability representation. I came back to her table and I was like, okay, give me that book now. So yeah, this hero was in an accident. He actually got in a bar fight defending a woman's honor, okay? And he lost his eye because of it, so he wears an eye patch, and he's really self-conscious about it. And I hate this for him, and I felt this way. I'll get to this in a second. I definitely felt this way. So the hero in here, like I said, he's wearing an eye patch, he's missing an eye, and this starts out, first scene is him on a date with a woman. I guess he met on a dating app or a blind date or something, and her just staring at him, and realize, and like she verbally says like, I know this is gonna work for me, like the eye thing is like too much, like I can't. And I'm like, god damn, I'm going on a side tangent right now, but people think that that's like fictional, like, oh, like that's just in a book, like that doesn't happen in real life. I can attest that it does happen in real life, as someone who is chronically ill and disabled and even has celiac disease, just celiac disease. I don't even tell you how many times I've told a man I have celiac disease and I get ghosted. I'm like, you can't deal with some food restrictions, my dude? Like, it's just food. Anyway, like, the way that they handled it was not great. I can totally understand if someone's like, hey, not really my speed, not like, I'm not really looking for someone who has food allergies. I'm like, okay, why? But I mean, like, to each their own, whatever. But like, the way that people treat us is absolutely ridiculous. The way that this woman, the girl he's on a date with, we don't see her ever again after this scene. But I'm like, really? It's just an eye? He's the same person. His eyes usually has one eye. What's the problem? That woman pissed me off to no end. Anyway, the hero has gone through multiple women who have done that to him, and he's like, I'm used to it by now. And I'm like, that sucks. Anyway, this story is very interesting. So our hero runs this gym, and he's wanting to become more comfortable around women. He's like, you know what? We also need a female trainer at the gym. So maybe if we get a female trainer, that can entice more women to come to the gym because it's very male dominated. And so he puts an ad out online that he's wanting a female trainer for his gym. Now the heroine is in needing of more money for her mother's medical bills. Her mother has early onset Alzheimer's, I'm pretty sure. and she's also a single mother, so she needs more money. And one of her coworkers at her day job is like, hey, I do this as a side gig. You want me to help you? There's this term, I guess, in the smexy side of the internet where like a female trainer means something else, right? And so her friend sees this ad online and is like, oh yeah, this is the gig. It's basically being a female dom. Everything works out. The hero is like thinking that he's going into an interview, like a woman is showing up for him to interview. But no, the heroine comes in a trench coat and dominates him. And he's like, whoa, I did not know that I wanted this. So there's some like miscommunication there, because it's like, wait, what did you want? Like they have their signals mixed with what they were wanting out of this situation. But it turns for the better. It is fun. It is hot. I haven't read a female dom romance like this one, so I definitely recommend it. Tropes for this one: you have a damaged hero, femme dom, a gym rat. The hero is definitely a gym rat. Hero falls first. We have pegging. Get excited. A romance with disability representation, and a single mom romance. The audiobook, by the way, is narrated, the heroine's point of view is narrated by our author here. So yeah, if you have Hoopla, it's on Hoopla for you to listen to. Next, I picked up Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. I was so excited to pick up this book because it's a traditionally published romance that is a monster romance. I will say, if you're wanting a monster romance going into this, it doesn't really heavily touch on the monster romance part, which like made me a little sad because I'm a monster romance enthusiast. But I mean, like, you're gonna get what you're gonna get with a traditionally published book. A traditionally published book is not gonna write some like monster romance like a Katie Robert Dragon Bride book, right? So I took what I could get. The heroine, her father passed away, and her father was from Scotland, so she decides to go visit her extended family because she has no one else. And there she meets someone who's been helping out her family, and that's the hero, and there may or may not be a Loch Ness monster, okay? And she wants to help him break his curse because he has a curse on him. You have Break the Curse, dual narration. So if you're wanting a book with dual narration, because those are always so fun, I recommend this one. Grumpy Sunshine, a monster romance, and it is a small town romance. I have probably the spiciest book that I read this month. This is The Dare by Harley Laroux. I'll just leave you with the fact that this book is for a vlog that I'm doing that comes out in a month or two. And I'm excited to post that for you. I'm still in the middle of filming it. But I read this book for that. And I will say this book is one of the hottest novellas I've ever read. It's like a bully romance with degradation, and it's hot. It's really hot. It's only a novella. I already picked up the full-length book because it's a prequel. This is a prequel. I picked up the full-length book Losers, and I'm anxiously waiting its arrival as an audiobook on Libby for me. But you know more of my thoughts when that vlog comes out, whenever I decide for it to come out. Tropes for this one: it's a dark romance, a bully romance. There's dirty talk, the dom sub dynamic. It takes place on Halloween. It's hate to love. It's a novella, and it is smutty as heck. Next, I have a very anticipated release that I finally got to. This is Raven Unveiled by Grace Draven. This is her third book in the Fallen Empire series, which is a fantasy romance series that is like so sweepingly romantic with amazing world building. If you're ever wanting to pick up a fantasy romance that has amazing world building, like fantasy world building, but equally as amazing romance, like Grace Draven is the way to go, especially with her Fallen Empire series. In the previous month, so in January, I actually reread book 1 and book 2 in preparation for this one. Throughout the whole entire series, the main bad guy, the villain, is this Empress who is absolutely god-awful. Like, she's horrible. And this one is the redemption arc somewhat to that Empress's right-hand man. He basically had to do her bidding or else he would die, and his young daughter would die as well. He does everything for Estrid, his child. She was born without any arms. They live in a society, in a world where perfection is revered, and if you have a disability, if you look different, you are hated. So he's kept his child in secret for so long. We got to meet him in book number 2. That's why I do recommend reading these books in order. We got to meet them in the previous book, and our heroine as well, because she actually was somewhat of the nanny to Estrid. And at the end of book number 2, she does something to betray our hero in book number 3. This book starts out with him hunting her down. That's all I'll say. He's hunting her down. He wants revenge for what she did. Nothing drastic. The child is alive. That's what I immediately thought of. I'm like, I hope they don't think that the child's dead. The child is alive. Like, Estrid was such a shining light in this series. Grace Draven really does highlight people with disabilities. So the heroine from book number 2, her mother has the mind of a like 6-year-old child, and so basically the daughters take care of the mother in that sense. But her mother's one of my favorite characters ever. Like, I love her so much, and she goes through a lot. In other books that Grace Draven has written as well, like, she highlights disability in a way that I really appreciate. Anyway, I really enjoy this fantasy romance. Grace Draven is a fantastic author. Tropes for this one, it's angsty, enemies to lovers. Like, this is a true enemies to lovers, right? Okay. We have fantasy romance, forced proximity, a morally gray hero, and also a single dad. I am so sad to say that I am done with the Chance Sisters series. This is a historical romance series that I fell in love with last year, and I finally finished it. And it's like a bittersweet moment because I love these books, I love these girls, but I am sad that the series is over. So book number 4 is The Summer Bride, and I was really looking forward to reading this one because Daisy is our heroine, and she is not of society whatsoever. She has this Cockney accent, and we have this man who just falls head over heels in love with her, and she's like, he's gonna want this titled woman who knows how to handle society, and all I want to do is make dresses. I don't want to be a part of that. And he needs a woman like that, and he's like, no, woman, I want you. Like, I want you. Like, how many times do I have to tell you that I want you? So I loved our hero in this one. And I also love the dressmaking aspects in here, because that's not something you really get to see in a book, is the intricacies and the works behind a historical romance, or like a dress shop that happened that was working all those years ago. So tropes of this one, it's a historical romance, historical disability representation. Our heroine Daisy, it like gets revealed in the book as to why she walks with a limp, but she does walk with a limp in this book. You have an obsessed hero. No Man Can Tame by Miranda Honfler is my next book that I read. I actually listened to this on Audible Plus, so if you have an Audible Plus subscription, this is one to listen to. I'm gonna be honest and say I don't remember a lot about this book. I do remember that it was kind of similar to Radiance. So you have people from different royal families getting in an arranged marriage, but they're not like interested in each other at all. But then they start falling for each other while they're married. That's all I can remember about this book. So yeah, it's not very action-packed, and I had a hard time not comparing it to Radiance, you know what I mean? But I still think it was a solid fantasy romance. So if you're wanting something more low-key, I definitely do recommend this. For tropes in this one, it's an arranged marriage, and it is a fantasy romance. I then decided to pick up The Sinner by Emma Scott. I finally picked up another book off my physical TBR, y'all, look at me. But I actually bought this book and met Emma Scott, I think 2 years ago at Book Bonanza, and she had this duet, so this one and then the second book, they're like standalone. It's a standalone duet at her table, and I was like, I gotta get those because I don't have those yet. But this one is definitely one I feel like you need to go in blind to. I don't really know what to say. Our heroine feels like something is missing in her life. She's a quiet woman who has a crush on a guy at work, and she just lives a quiet life and just gets by, just lives life to live life, doesn't really experience anything exciting until one day in the alley by her apartment, when she's walking out of her apartment, she finds a naked man with wings in the alley. And she's like, what the heck? And that's our hero. I will give a little hint because one of the tropes is reincarnation. So that was really fun. I'll leave that. I'll put that little tidbit in here. But other tropes is it's a paranormal romance, and we have soulmates and a character with wings. I love a man with wings. So everyone has been loving First Time Caller by B.K. Borson, and I do believe it's worth the hype. It's actually a really cute, fun, hot book. I love B.K. Borson's writing style, and I love how more people are getting introduced to her because of this book. It was a good book. It was really good. It was solid. I really liked it. Our heroine is a single mom. She has a great co-parenting situation with her ex, her baby daddy essentially, and his fiance. Like, they live right next door. Like, their whole little family unit is adorable. I love them. Anyway, she comes home one night and hears her, like, I think she's 12, like 12-year-old daughter on the phone at night in her bedroom, and she's like she's supposed to be asleep. She's not supposed to be on the phone. What is going on? And she's shocked to find out that her daughter's actually on the phone with our hero, who is a radio show host for this kind of like dating love segment on this radio show. They kind of talk about her love life for a little bit. The reason why her daughter called was because she was trying to help her mom find a date or something, because she feels like her mom is very lonely. Anyway, the viewers, the listeners of this radio show, like the ratings go sky high after they meet our heroine, and the radio people are like, hey, how about you come and make this a normal thing, like you come in with our typical radio show host and y'all both host this segment, and it's about those two people falling for each other. Sorry, I can't remember names for the life of me. But this was so fun. The banter was immaculate. The hero was great. He literally keeps a running list of all of the heroine's favorite things that he figures out in his glove compartment in his car. And she ends up finding it. She's like, what? It's a solid book. I could definitely see myself rereading this. It definitely shows you if the book was good is if you would reread it, because books that I don't really like or were meh, I'm like, I don't feel like I'd reread this one. This one I would reread it. It's fun. Tropes for this one, we have forced proximity, great banter, grumpy sunshine. We have an amazing meet cute moment because that radio show scene was iconic. You have a single mom, and it is a slow burn romance. Oh my gosh, one of my favorites February was The Wickedness of a Highlander by Lisa Braden. This one was so stinking fun. I loved it. It's book number 4, a part of her Midnight in Scotland series. There we go. This book was everything. So apparently the heroine of this book is sister to one of the villains in the previous books in the series, and he did wrong by the hero of this book. And the hero of this book doesn't like our heroine because of certain things that happened in a previous book. Anyway, this book starts out with our heroine being tricked by a couple who just wanted her money and to steal her things, because she basically has all of her belongings in 2 trunks, and all of her family is dead, all of her family's gone, and she's kind of on her own. And she wants to travel to, I think, Inverness or somewhere along those lines to meet up with a friend of hers. But her stuff gets stolen along the way, and she's stuck in this area of Scotland, and she has nowhere else to turn to. She's like, okay, I have no money. Where can I find a job? And she asks everywhere around town, and she finds out the only place that has a job available is our hero's estate, and he needs a maid. She has not cooked, cleaned, and anything a day in her life. She's a titled woman. I think she's titled. Anyway, she's a lady. She doesn't cook or clean or anything like that. She's like, I'm so desperate. I will become his maid. Even though he hates me, I'll try. Beginning of this book is this man just doing everything possible to make this woman quit. Because he doesn't like her, he wants to make her life miserable. But then he starts doing little things to be like, oh wait, no, but that hurt her feelings. Oh wait, no, but for example, she is an awful cook because she doesn't know how to cook, and he eats every single bite. This book is amazing. I loved it. The dynamic between these two was immaculate. The banter was fantastic. If you have not read an Lisa Braden book, I definitely recommend her books, especially the series is full of banter. It is so fun. This book was amazing. I need to find more maid romances, I guess. I loved that dynamic of boss, employee, maid historicals, because that was so fun. So like I said, it's a boss employee, we have forced proximity, great banter, grumpy sunshine, a Highlander romance, a historical romance, and we have an obsessed and possessive hero. I gave this book 5 stars. I then picked up Under Lock by Mariana Zapata. I don't honestly remember what this book was about, other than the fact it takes place in a tattoo shop. This is my second Mariana Zapata book. And I think, unfortunately, this has shown me this author is not for me. And that's okay. Not every author is going to be for every person. If you love her books, by the way, that is amazing for you. They just don't jive well with me. I will not be picking up any more of her books. And there's nothing wrong with the book whatsoever. It's just not my style, not my type of humor, not my type of length of a book. So it's definitely a me thing. So if you love this book, I am so incredibly sorry. It's just not for me, not my cup of tea, and that's okay. I have Iron Ember by Donna Grant next. Donna Grant writes a lot of paranormal and fantasy romances. I'm actually going to be interviewing her in March, which will be exciting. So I decided to pick up one of her books, and this one is interesting because I honestly felt stupid also, because I didn't know that there was an island called Sky. I'm so dumb. I didn't know that was an actual thing. And so I was like, where's all the world building? Because where is this place named Sky? Blah, blah, blah. My boss had to tell me, Like, Sky's a real place. Like, Sky's an island. Did you not know that? I was like, no, that's why I feel like I'm lacking world building, is because I didn't know that was a real place. We don't need world building because the place actually exists. So anyway, apparently on Sky, we have, in Donna Grant's world, we have a bunch of druids, which are kind of like, it's another word for witches. And the heroine goes back to Sky. She was born and raised there. And things start happening. I don't really know how to describe it without spoiling it. The hero has been sent by another druid of like higher ranking than him, that he needs to go find this woman and ask her to help them because a lot of the druid race outside of Sky have been assassinated and killed, and they're trying to figure out who's responsible for it. And that's all I'll leave you with. So if you're wanting like a magical book filled with druids that takes place in, I think it's Scotland, right? Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm so ignorant on geography that is not the United States, which I need to change that, obviously. I picked up Holding by Alexandria House next. I really enjoyed Goal, which is technically the first book in this series. They're like interconnected standalones, very loosely based on one another. And this one was really good. I wasn't that big of a fan of the miscommunication trope that kept happening in here. But other than that, it was like perfect. I would have given this book 5 stars if that just didn't keep on happening, you know what I mean? So it's a very good book. I was entranced, I was enthralled, I loved these characters and their love story. This is a second chance romance, and it flip-flops back and forth between present day, where these two characters are divorced. They're divorced, and the past, when they're kids and they first meet and then they first fall in love. Like, that was beautiful. I loved that. I always love a romance book where it flip-flops between past and present. Like, I love that when it's a second chance romance, obviously. So in the present day chapters, these two are divorced, and they're both, I guess, like moving on, trying to move on, and they can't help but keep thinking about each other. Like, this book is so hot. Alexandria House knows how to write a good spice. Like, it was good. Tropes for this one, you have brother's best friend. This is a black love romance. You have childhood crush, childhood friends. The dirty talk is immaculate in here, okay? You have flashbacks, mental health representation with our heroine. They were childhood neighbors, so I put neighbors on here, and it is a second chance romance. It is a hockey romance as well. I guess I didn't put that on that list. But yeah, it is also a hockey romance, but I don't feel like hockey is heavily in this book. He's just a hockey player. There's maybe like one scene of him like actually playing hockey. Another really hot one, like it was so good, was X's and O's by Kayla Gross. This one was juicy, so hot. This is an MMF romance that takes place in the wintertime. Christmas. I didn't know it was a Christmas romance when I picked it up. I saw Kayla Gross audio was available by Libby, and I was like, huh, say less, I'm getting that. This starts out with our married couple. They're in the woods, in the mountains, and they come across our third person, our guy, has crashed out in the snow in the mountains, and they end up saving him and bringing him back to their cabin to help nurse him back to health, essentially, after his car crash. But during this time, there's a snowstorm that comes in, and they're stuck in this cabin together during Christmas time. And the husband and wife have always wanted a third in their relationship. Like I said before, it was hot, juicy, delicious. I loved it. It was so hot. Like, I was blushing. I was beet red reading this, but it was like so good. Tropes to this one, you have the primal kink or chasing kink. It's a Christmas romance. A dirty talk is fantastic. Forced proximity, a married couple, MMF. There's piercings on the married couple, both of them. Piercings on both of them. You have plus size representation with our heroine. It's smutty as heck. It takes place during a snowstorm, and we have a tatted hero. Next, I listened to Arrogant Devil by R.S. Gray. Look at this gorgeous edition. This is the regular paperback now. So actually, she published Arrogant Devil years ago, and it finally got picked up by a publisher. It was published by Entangled. And yeah, this is like the new cover for it. I listened to the audiobook that was made like years ago, so I don't know how well it aligns with the new version, but I read it because I was the moderator for an interview with R.S. Gray and Sarah Nye in February at the Flutter Romance bookstore in Austin, and that was so fun. And I actually loved this. This was so fun. Our heroine is getting divorced from her husband. She got married right at 18. The man was like 34. They got married, and it's been years, and she feels like she's not being seen and cared for, and he's cheating on her. So she ups and leaves. She asks her older sister to help out, and she ends up getting her a job at this ranch that the hero runs. And the hero's like, okay, the only position I have available for you is the housekeeper, the maid. I need a new housekeeper on the ranch. And this woman has not worked a day in her life, and he knows that. He thinks she's some like rich, entitled woman and is just gonna quit after day number 1, but she doesn't. And he eats his words. He eats his words. So this is a great hate to love, bickering, banter-filled romance that takes place on a ranch. I definitely recommend it. Other tropes, let's see, the boss employee, a cowboy or rancher romance. Great banter, hate to love, meddlesome family members. His grandmother is immaculate. And here, I loved her. This is a slow burn, small town. It takes place in Texas, and it is a workplace romance. Another favorite from February was Tide by Carian. This one was so good. I gave this one 5 stars. It was so good. I don't want to talk too much about it. I'll give you a very brief summary because this is all that I knew before going in. This takes place in a small town. The hero has kind of been ostracized. People think he's weird because he's reclusive and he doesn't really talk. He was actually in an accident when he was younger to where it hurt his vocal cords, so he actually doesn't really speak all that much anymore because it hurts him to talk. Anyway, one day he is walking in the woods and hears a sound. And he ends up finding a young girl around like 16, 17 in a hole in the forest with a dog whose vocal cords have been severed. And he ends up saving this girl and he calls the police and everything. Turns out she was kidnapped, I think when she was 6, and by this like horrible man, and he's been abusing her all those years. But the thing is, when he calls 911 and they show up, they think that he is the man who kidnapped her. So things get cleared very easily though. And they figure out that's not the actual guy, but a lot of the people in the town think he's still dangerous because of this whole situation. Anyway, this takes place a year or 2 after that, when the heroine has been in therapy and been to this recovery place, and she is still trying to find the man who rescued her. She calls him her prince, and is also trying to find her dog. Her dog ran away that day, and she goes on a walk one day in the woods and ends up finding both of them. And it's so good. This book is so good. I loved it so much. It's like deeply emotional, romantic, and these people are like meant to be. You know, like you read a romance and sometimes you're like, oh, they're gonna break up maybe 2 weeks after this book takes place, or a year, or whatever. They're gonna get divorced one day. These two are soulmates. They are soulmates. They're meant to be together forever. So there's a lot of tropes in this one, so buckle up. I have a whole list. You have age gap, books with pets, because the heroine has that dog, and then the hero has a pet fox, which was so fun. I loved that. Damaged hero and a damaged heroine. It's a dark romance, emotional, grumpy hero. I hate everyone in the world but you. The never been kissed trope with our heroine. There's no third act breakup. Always love that. You have the savior trope, scarred characters, slow burn, small town, a tatted hero, and also he was the town outcast. So I love this. 5 stars. Definitely recommend this one. And the last book that I have to mention is another 5-star read. I loved it. This was Once Smitten, Twice Shy by Chloe Lisa. I finished this one today. It was so good. I loved it. This may also just be a me thing. I know a few of the reviews, I've read people's reviews that say like, this book was too slow. There wasn't a lot going on. It was just 2 people falling for each other. I can always appreciate, I guess, a quiet, low stakes romance. I love reading romances where 2 people just meet and they know, like, I think you're it. I think you're it for me, and there's no one else. I find that so deeply romantic. In real life, that would be delusional as hell, right? Delusionalville. But in these books, I feel like that shows me that maybe something like that can happen, and maybe it has. Maybe it's happened to you. I don't know. But these 2 characters meet by happenstance on the opposite side of the world one night at the beginning of this book, and they dance at this club. And ever since then, they haven't really been able to stop thinking about each other. A few months later, the heroine ends up finding him asleep in her mother's greenhouse for some reason. And it turns out he's best friends with their next door neighbor. And he was visiting them and wanted some peace and quiet in this greenhouse. Anyway, it's kind of like the invisible string theory of like, these 2 were always meant to be. They just need to find each other again. And I loved it. I loved it so much, okay? This is more of a low stakes, with basically no angst at all romance. Definitely sweet, friends to lovers. It's a retelling of Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. All the books in the series are retellings of a Shakespeare story of some sort. But I absolutely adore this book. I adore these characters. They're both so sweet and kind. I love them so much. So yeah, tropes for this one. We have anxiety representation. You have autism representation with our hero. Will, our hero in here, is also a new book boyfriend of mine because he is so incredibly sweet. Like, I love him. You have celiac disease representation with our heroine. She also has chronic pain and other chronic illness. I can't remember off the top of my head, but she does use a mobility aid. She use a cane sometimes in here, so there's that representation as well. You have a cinnamon roll hero. It's friends to lovers. There's low angst, no third act breakup, and you have like romance lessons, because basically these two have been burned in the past by love and they think they need help with dating, so they decide to date each other to figure out how they can become better daters, but they end up falling for each other anyway. It was beautiful. I loved this one. Anyways, there you have it. Those were all the books that I ended up reading in February. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you plan to, and if you don't feel like commenting anything else, you can leave me, what emoji should we do? The fire. Let's do the fire emoji. I don't know why I thought of that, but yeah, the fire emoji in the comment section down below. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all soon in my next one. Bye y'all.